Hello and welcome back to the channel this week. This week's episode is going to start out with a question, and that question is, have you had trouble trying to find the perfect kit lens for you? I know I did in the beginning, and we're just going to discuss that in just a moment. So let's go over some of the common problems that people get into when they're trying to find the best kit lens when they're picking up a new camera. Like it could be an X-T30, it could be an X-T3, or it could be an X-T5. There's some great cameras out there, and they all come with the ability to purchase a kit lens at the same time. Now let's look at this 18 to 55 right here. This lens is a beautiful little lens, and I've often called it the best kit lens ever made by any camera manufacturer. It's all metal. It does a lot of things. It's small and it's light. Its only problem really is that it doesn't have any weather sealing. Now, you know, Fuji came along and decided that maybe they should do an upgrade for kit lens, make something a little bit better, and make it weather sealed, and also make it with an aperture ring and various other things. And they came up with the 16 to 80. And as soon as I saw this lens, I knew I had to have it right away, and I ordered it immediately. All right, so let's go over some of the reasons why someone would want to purchase this 16 to 55 here. Like I said before, it's small, it's light, and it has a nice aperture range, 2.8 to 4. And it's, you know, it's 2.8 at 18 and all the way out at 55. It's f4, but you know, a colleague of mine showed me this lens when he first got into the Fuji system, and he said that he really liked this lens. So when I got my X-T3, I really only had one choice, and that was to get this as the kit lens. So my introduction to Fujifilm was through this lens and through my X-T3, and I gotta say that I was really impressed with this lens. It's just beautiful. I wish that it had an outside aperture ring, but I kind of get used to the internal one you use in the camera. So you basically just turn this ring right here, and you can see it inside the camera. But the other cool thing about this little lens is that it has OIS in it, which is pretty nice. I mean, it's still kind of slow in focusing and everything, but you know, compared to this other lens, it's very low in price, and you can find these lenses very inexpensively for around $300. Now used, that is just a great deal for a lens that does so much. You can get close up with it, you know, not macro close up, but good close up. And you know, it does extend like this, and the older ones, of course, will creep when you hold it upside down like this. Mine doesn't, because I barely use this thing. Now let's look at some of the key features of this lens right here, the 16 to 80. It's got a nice outside aperture ring, you know, that goes from 4 to 22, and it's great. I mean, now I've used this lens a lot. Let's see if it creeps any. Ooh, it's not creeping. That's great. I suppose if I turn it a little bit, it'll start to creep. No, it's still not bad at all. You walk around with it upside down and it's going to creep a little bit. But this lens is weather sealed, it has OIS in it, and it's a straight f4 aperture. And that's one thing that I really like about this lens, is because of that f4. Now see, when I was working for the paper, my last zoom lens that I owned was a, what the heck was it? 16 no, excuse me, it was a 24 to 70 f2.8 and then an f4. So I traded in the f2.8 and I got an f4 lens, and it was very similar to this, a 24 to 70. This is 24 to 120, and that's one of the other key reasons why I wanted this lens. At 16 to 80, in 35 millimeter terms, it's a 24 to 120. Now, that's perfect for me. I can use it for everything. Almost everything. And I was looking through some images from my last Lightroom catalog, and there's 13,000 images in there taken with this lens alone. Of course, that includes a lot of private jobs that, you know, were very, very long and had a lot of images in them. But as you can tell, I use this lens a lot. But I'll tell you, you know, it does extend out the, oh, it's drifting down. You can tell it does go out quite a bit, but it's weather sealed, got OIS, and it's a beautiful lens, but it does cost around $800 new. You can find them used because people have gotten them as kit lenses, and you can probably find them for about $500, maybe $600, something like that used. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a great option. Now, if we're comparing these two lenses, let's look at some pros and cons. The 18 to 55 here, one of the big pros is, one of the big cons is that it doesn't have any weather sealing in it. The other con is that it's a 2.84. It's not a straight aperture like the other one at f4. For me, it doesn't extend far enough out. It only goes to 55. But you know what? That's really not that big a deal if you've got a 55 to 200, let's say. And you know what? There's not that many cons to it. The pros are that it's really solidly built. It's got OIS in it, and it's sharp as a tack. I mean, this lens is really nice and sharp. Fuji doesn't make anything that's really, really out of whack. So let's go look at some pros and cons of this 16 to 80 here. It's weather sealed, it's got OIS in it, it's got straight aperture at f4, and it goes all the way out to 120, or I should say 80, you know, 120 equivalent. And it's sharp as a tack. At 80 in the corners, sometimes it gets, you can tell that it looks a little bit soft, but it's really not that bad at all. I've shot wide open with it, right in the middle, man, it's just so sharp. And it's a beautiful lens, I gotta say that. And it's also built really, really well. So you can tell that, you know, there's some decisions here, but look, one's way smaller, this one's bigger. That's a con for this one, it's bigger. A pro for this one is that it's much smaller. Now, cost. Now, this is how I break down lenses: size, weight, and cost, okay? So if you're looking at this lens here, the size is pretty big, but it's not as big as the 16 to 55 f2.8, the red badge lens. But honestly, you know, it's not huge. You put this on an XT30 and it's unfortunately, it's unfortunately a little bit big. But on my XT5, it handles well. Now, if you're looking at this lens here, the 18 to 55, small, light, and it doesn't cost a lot. So there's a trade-off there. You're seeing a big trade-off. Okay, so those are some of the pros and cons and things that these two lenses do. We're going to take a look at some photographs right now that I've made with both lenses. Obviously, I've made more with this, but I've gone out and made some more with this little lens, and I got to say that every time I take it out, I kind of like it. So enjoy these images right now. Okay, so let's look at both these lenses and try to figure out what might be best for you. So if you're interested in a lens that is lightweight, inexpensive, sharp as a tack, and has OIS in it and is extremely well built, this lens right here, the 18 to 55 284, is for you. Now, if you're interested in something that is more upscale, it's got weather sealing, it's got straight f4 aperture ring, and extends all the way out to 80, which is 120 millimeters in 35 millimeter terms, and maybe a little bit more expensive, and that's about it. It's a great lens. It's sharp as a tack. This lens here might be for you. So if you have a bigger camera, an X-T5, X-T3, maybe even X-T2, this lens right here might be the one for you. I wouldn't suggest this lens for an an X Pro 2 or 3, mainly because those cameras are really meant for prime lenses. But you know, you can use this on there. But I would use this with an X-T5 or an X-T3 or an X-T2 or an XH2, XH2S. This lens would also be good. I think that this lens here is more for an X-T30 because it's so small, and that's what I've been using it on. So if you own either of these two lenses here, the 18 to 55 here or the 16 to 80, hey, let me know what your experience has been with these two lenses and whether or not you think they're worthwhile as a kit lens, and maybe even what you use it on. That would really be helpful to other people that are watching this video. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel, throw a like my way, and comment on these two lenses and which one you may have and your experiences with it and what camera you use it on. That would be awesome. And please share this video so it will help other people in making that decision as to what they might want to use for a kit lens right here. So thanks for joining me this week. And remember, it's not what you photograph, it's how you photograph it, and we'll catch you next time.